Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's vlog, I'm sharing the practical methods that actually will help you upgrade your vocabulary and sound way more fluent without getting bored. One of the problems most new language learners face is memorizing new vocabulary and retaining it. Statements like, no matter how much I memorize words, I can't remember, or I review them every day, but I still forget them, are probably familiar to all of us. Increasing your vocabulary is not just about memorizing words, it's about moving them into the brain's active vocabulary system. One of the biggest mistakes language learners make is memorizing words in isolation. Learn words within sentences or collocations rather than on their own. Instead of learning decision by itself, learn it as make a decision. Also, this method may seem slower at first, it produces the most lasting results. When our brain stores information, it needs to connect it with other information. For example, when we learn a word through simple translation, it remains isolated in our memory. So, during a conversation, our brain struggles to retrieve it. Context, however, creates an address for the word and making it easier to access when needed. One of the most common problems students face is I know the word, but I don't know where and how to use it in a sentence. For example, both quick and fast mean rapid. However, we say quick shower, not fast shower, or we say fast food, not quick food. That's why collocations are important. When you learn words in groups, your English automatically starts sounding more natural. Try to create your own story. For example, whenever you learn a new word, try to connect it to your own life. For example, when you learn the word delay or postpone, instead of just learning its definition, say, I postponed my gym session today. It activates emotional memory and making the word more memorable. Stay loyal to the original source. For example, when you encounter a word in a movie, book, or podcast, just say the exact sentence where you found it. Every sentence has their own atmosphere, and when you remember that atmosphere, you'll often remember the word too. Try to use dictionaries correctly. For example, the example sentences section is often more valuable than the definition itself, so when you look up for a word, try to read at least the first two example sentences. And when it comes to phrasal verbs, memorizing phrasal verbs as simple translations is nearly impossible because many have multiple meanings. And some words are like best friends, they almost always appear together, and if you separate them, your English may sound robotic. We call them collocations. We don't say do a mistake, we say make a mistake. When you learn a new word, try to learn the common combinations. For example, the word heavy, do not just learn its definition, but try to learn the common combinations like heavy rain, heavy traffic. Sometimes the meaning of a word can completely change depending on the sentence. For example, the word book. I'm reading a great book. I need to book a hotel room for my trip. Or, for example, the word fine. I feel fine, thanks. I had to pay a fine for speeding. If you want to remember a new word, use it in a sentence related to your own life. Remember that personal experiences are much more easier for the brain to remember. Instead of reviewing information 10 times in one day, gradually increase the time between reviews. Each time your brain struggles slightly to recall the word, the memory becomes stronger. People who prefer notebooks over apps can write down 20 new words or sentences and do not touch the notebook for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, revisit the list and remove the words you remember and rewrite only the ones you forgot. Repeat the process until only the truly difficult words remain. Instead of translating words into your native language, try to connect them with images. For example, when learning colors, try connecting them to personal experiences or familiar images. For example, if pink is your favorite color, imagine your favorite pink item whenever you hear the word pink. Or if your friend loves wearing black clothes, associate the color black with that person. You can also link yellow to the sun, blue to the sky, and green to grass and trees. These simple associations make colors much easier to remember. The same principle applies to objects. When learning the name of an object in a new language, try to create a clear mental image of it. Instead of translating the word into your native language, picture the actual object in your mind. For example, when learning the word chair, imagine a chair you use every day. This helps your brain build a direct connection between the word and the image, making recall faster and more natural. Why visual learning works? When translating, the brain often follows this route. This removes the translation barrier. Don't forget that visual memory is stronger because the brain processes images much faster than words. You may forget a translation, but you are less likely to forget a strange or emotional image linked to a word. You can also search the word in Google Images. For example, the word clumsy. You'll immediately see people dropping objects, stumbling, and making awkward mistakes. Soon the image, not the translation, will come to mind whenever you hear the word. When it comes to visualizing abstract words, concrete nouns are easy to visualize, but what about emotions or abstract concepts? For example, the word enormous. Imagine the Eiffel Tower or a giant whale. Or, for example, the word furious. Imagine a cartoon character with steam coming out of their ears. Use funny and strange stories. The brain remembers emotional or unusual information more effectively. Connect words to funny, dramatic, or bizarre stories. Link the pronunciation of a new word to similar sounds in your native language or another language you know. Take 5 or 6 unrelated words and connect them into one story. The more dramatic or ridiculous the story, the easier it becomes to remember. Or you can connect words to real people in your life. For example, the word kind. If you know someone who is extremely kind, mentally label them kind Kate or kind Emma. Whenever you think of that person, the word comes to mind automatically. This method works because you are no longer just consuming information, you are creating it. The brain tends to remember its own creations better than someone else's translations. The biggest challenge for many learners is this. I understand the word when I hear it, but I can't remember it when I speak. Because the brain has placed the word in the recognition box, not the production box. It's the famous, I know this word, it's on the tip of my tongue feeling. Your brain essentially has two vocabulary warehouses, active vocabulary and passive vocabulary. Passive vocabulary is usually the larger vocabulary. You can understand the words when listening or reading. And when it comes to active vocabulary, it's about the words you can use naturally while speaking or writing without assistance. The challenge is moving words from passive to active memory. Reading alone is usually not enough. Imagine your brain as a huge library. The book is there, and you know what it looks like. You may even know which shelf it's on, but the librarian cannot retrieve it quickly when you need it. How to activate vocabulary? Repeat what a speaker says at the same time they say it, copying both pronunciation and intonation. This trains your production system. Try to use newly learned words while talking to yourself throughout the day. Even if half the sentence is in your native language, using the target word helps activate it. Read books, watch movies, do vocabulary exercises, and review. Make sentences, create stories using the words you have learned. Write the names of objects on small pieces of paper and stick them around. Keep these papers on your desk at home or stick them on the refrigerator. If you learn a new word and never use it, your brain treats it as unnecessary information. Many students try to learn 50 words in 1 hour but remember none of them 2 days later. This is the classic mistake of prioritizing quantity over quality. We often assume every word has a direct one to one equivalent in another language, but languages don't work that way. Failing to understand these distinctions creates confusion. At beginner levels, progress feels exciting because even 10 new words can help you build mini sentences. At higher levels, vocabulary becomes more specific and academic. As a result, many learners feel like they have stopped improving. That's normal. So, how to stay consistent without burning out? The biggest mistake is studying for 3 hours in one day and then doing nothing for 5 days. Instead of this, try to learn 5 words a day. Because the workload feels small, your brain doesn't resist it. Focus on your interests. If you're learning academic words you never use, boredom is inevitable. Instead, learn vocabulary related to topics you really enjoy. For example, cats, makeup, travel, fitness, gaming, technology. Learning becomes entertainment rather than work. Instead of sitting down solely to memorize words, encounter them naturally. Watch movies with English subtitles, read song lyrics, follow English speaking creators. So, this is the end of my vlog. If you found it useful, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and hit the like button. See you in the next video.